Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're joining me live, this is a very awkward time. It's 4 p.m. Eastern. I know it's 1 p.m. Pacific. It's awkward. I get it. And this is a one time occurrence because I have to work with, I'm just recovering. I have been away for about a week, actually, exactly a week. Last time I was live was last Tuesday. I had COVID since then. And several days of 104, which is 40 Celsius temperature and fever and all this jazz. So I'm happy to be back. This is my first day today to be when I'm upright and I washed my hair, when I did all this, right? All this fun stuff. And so I had to work with, when I'm okay being seated and talk about news. And thank you so much for your kind words, for your support. I read every single comment. I try to reply to them. Thank you so much for your kind wishes. And happy to be back. And just stay healthy, guys. As I always say, keeping your head on a swivel, staying mentally and physically healthy is the key here, right? Because without that, nothing else matters. So thank you for being here. If you catch this on demand once the live stream is over, just know that you are, even though you're not with us, you're missing and you're missed, and we appreciate you, and I appreciate you. Okay, so today I'm going to talk just about the Russia, Ukraine, United States situation. You know what happened in Alaska. I'm not going to show you videos or talk much about it, nor I'm going to talk or show you videos from yesterday. In fact, I have no videos for you here, a couple of pictures, but I want us to analyze it. So first, let's recap what did happen, because as I put it out on Blue Sky specifically yesterday, some of them on Twitter, but mostly on Blue Sky, from what I have heard from different delegations, from people who were in the room, from people who were near the room, and those who weren't even in the room but had some insight. So we're going to discuss that. I'll recap it, then I'll analyze it, I'll share my opinion, and then I have a thought to share as to where we headed from here and what my personal intention would be. Okay, so let's say hi real quick. Thank you so much for being here. Steven is missing. Thank you, Steven, for watching it later on demand. Hi, James. Hi. Hello. Hi, Jared. Thank you so much for being here. Good evening, Martin. Good evening. Good evening. Looking good. Thank you. Well, I washed myself. This is a biggie here. Hi, Martha. Oh, I missed you too. Yeah, COVID isn't funny, guys. I thought it was over and, all those crazy people with masks, although I was masking up always, but now it's like, it's non existent. It's harsh. It hits you with a sore throat and crazy migraines and fever. That was my whole big thing. Hey, Brad, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Hey, Claude. Oh, thank you, guys. If you're from Europe, let me know because I think this time works well for Europe. Right? I will be sweating profusely and maybe sneezing sometimes. Listen, today is the day. So we know what happened in Alaska, right? Um, Putin received this Tsar treatment that he was working very hard for, working from, I would say, as early as 1980s, right? Installing a president or doing everything and doing the most for United States to have a president who would be so welcoming to United States. Not to compare with Obama times with the reset button. Remember when they brought little button, dragged it to Moscow and all that? This is real pro-Russian president who embodies the spirit and the idea of imperialism and also autocracy and all this, right? He wholeheartedly is supporting what Russia does and also is fanning out from Putin and is very, happy to see him, shake his hand and all that, right? What stood out to me was first the handshake, right, with Trump reaching out from the bottom. And of course, this infamous at this point red carpet and making our army and military personnel. I'm not blaming them. I understand they are in the setting where what are you not going to follow orders? What you going to do, right? Um, let's give them benefit of doubt, but using them specifically and giving Russians this visuals of our military rolling out the carpet on the knees and all that kind of stuff, right? Then also, what I hear, right? I wasn't there, thankfully, and we all know this was a trap. I mean, there was no press conference, no questions asked. Whatever media paid to sponsor that trip and not getting absolutely anything. It's just, a bummer, so to speak. But from what I have heard is that the American delegation entered the room in Alaska, were shown a video, and after that, they were sitting down and just listening. This is from what I hear. See, sweating. It's a fever thing. Anyway, so what were they shown? That's the biggie, right? And I'll tell you that we will never know. As much as we still don't know what happened in Helsinki, what was said there, what was done there, we don't know. We will never know, right? Maybe it's Trump receiving his scorecard from his master. Maybe it's Epstein files revealed. Who knows, right? We can go into conspiracy theories. Or maybe they were shown the maps of Ukraine and Putin was saying what he wants to have. I don't know. Maybe it's like a McDonald's menu. But Levitt reportedly, and this was reported by Fox News and CNN, ran out, big eyes, was so shocked, like she saw just, Snowfoot or Bigfoot. Everybody running. Witkoff ran to the press briefing afterwards, right? That's supposed to be a press briefing, but were essentially just statements delivered by Putin first and foremost, which is weird. Hi, Peter. Hello. Which was weird, right? When the guest, not the host, begins the presser, and Putin had a whole written out statement. Trump had no written out statement. He was just, speaking off the cuff, which is altogether, whether you are Trump supporter or not, you see lack of preparation, lack of professionalism, and just lack of structure and control, because it is on your soil. This is an international criminal arriving on your soil. This is your Air Force base, goddammit. He is welcomed with the red carpet, with the F-35s and F-22s stationed right next to him. Then the F-35s were flown right next to the Putin's plane, escorting him back to Russia. And Russians made a big hoopla, deservingly so, out of it. Was this part of the agenda that they demanded, or was it Trump's negligence or purposeful treatment and welcoming whatever, right, rhetoric to Putin? Who knows? But it is what it is. And the visual was horrible for United States and horrible for the Western world. Now, nothing was said nor signed, whatever, right? We don't know. The big part of it was when Trump and Putin sat in the Beast. Now, from what I know, that Putin had his own limo standing there. Of course, it was agreed upon that he will be riding with Trump, but this was a last-minute decision. During that time, when they were riding, there was nobody but a driver in this car. The driver will never speak. I mean, unless he wants to end his life right away. So we, again, will never know what was said there. From my humble opinion and from my angle, I think this was the most important conversation there. The Russians all over state television, of course, propaganda state television, started joking that this is where they divided Ukraine. Could be, could be not, right? This is just... And so they're leaving this presser, which is, again, a bonus point to Putin, because what he achieved through all of this was legitimizing his actions. He stole Crimea, 2014, yeah, but he stole the land of sovereign Ukraine. He violated not just Budapest Agreement, but all this Minsk and all of the agreements that he ever signed. But he also used Trump and herewith United States of America to legitimize it, to make it official, to make it okay. And this is the big problem that I have with everything we're doing here. Since Trump has been elected, let's recap a little back, okay? Year ago, right? Maybe November last year. Since he was elected, it was okay to allow him to, or the Trump administration, which has become Trump administration, to participate in the so-called transition period with no vetting, with no FBI checks, with not even them using official email addresses that are within the White House complex, not using the offices, not disclosing absolutely anything about any sponsors, investors, and donors. Nobody spoke against it. It was okay. And this is on the Biden administration. This is the time when I stopped receiving my press briefing access back then, November. Nobody was questioning the election. Nobody was questioning even the antiques and the methods of them coming into power. Now, fast forward. Trump starts declaring, Gulf of America, all of this. Nobody speaks about it, right? It's like, oh, that's the crazy, they're crazy. They're saying it. They're crazy. Okay, well, they're crazy. And now it drags now 6+ months in. And now we're coming into European Union and Europe's leaders, right? The 7 of them at least, who came to the Oval Office. And they're seated there. The media doesn't question about the 6 wars that Trump apparently solved. And at this point, it's 7, according to him. What are those wars? When did he do it? Is it space wars? What is it? Star Wars? What is it? What are those wars? What did you do? Right? It's all good. It's the crazy guy speaking. But first, it's the crazy guy speaking. The press is not challenging it. Nobody's challenging it within the United States majorly, right? We're making fun, and Newsom is doing a great job, right? And sort of he forced now Trump to stop tweeting in all caps because it became a Newsom thing and not his thing. He's using his own methods, and I refer to it as a poop throwing competition, which Democrats never wanted to participate in. Now Newsom takes the poop thrown at him and throws right back at you, and it works to a certain sense. But at this point, we're legitimizing everything that Trump is doing because we're not really speaking against it. We're not questioning it. It's the crazy guy speaking. But if he keeps speaking every day, it becomes normality. And this is exactly the method that Putin used against Trump. And everything Putin said, right? I'm protecting, right in that statement that he read out loud in Alaska. Just imagine, it's an international criminal who has been killing civilians for 3 years, has invaded Ukraine, has violated every single agreement that it has ever existed, right, that he signed. He's given space to speak. He says he's protecting Ukraine. He's interested in peace, and he's seeing Trump as his sort of mediator and his partner in crime, essentially, for proceeding with this. And nobody is questioning it. And so for Trump to say the conference is over and there is no questioning allowed, right? Given that ABC reporter, and God bless her, and NBC were sort of throwing questions at Putin before even the meeting began. For him to say there will be no questions, this was another win for Putin. We're not questioning anything. We're just continuing with the narrative. So then Trump arrived, he flies on Air Force One and he starts calling Zelensky, and he starts calling European Union. From what I know now, and again, I spoke to different delegations, I spoke to people who were in the room, around the room, and back in their offices yesterday. From what I hear, he is saying that I will not be investing anything in protecting Ukraine. I can sell weapons, but then Europeans do understand that if they only and solely rely on the weapons sold by United States has full control, right? in this production, in the speed of the production, inaccessibility. There's also a clause of the usage of those weapons against a third country, right? So US can prohibit it. US can also send. Remember when US was sending under Biden administration was sending missiles, but they had a certain range cap, right? And they couldn't reach Moscow, and then it was extended and all that kind of stuff, right? Nor that Ukraine ever wanted to reach Moscow at that point. Anyway, so Europeans understand that if United States is out of this picture, they will have to first pay for it, and then they will have to find different solutions. But they sat, and excuse me, they sat on their behinds for 3 years, hoping that somehow this will magically resolve. You had 3 years. You knew where United States is headed. You knew that there is at least a possibility for Biden to lose and for that not to continue. And Biden did a very good thing for United States. He created this model where we will be selling old stuff to Ukraine, replacing it with the new stuff by allocating money for it. And this will be all sort of like aid for Ukraine, which altogether will leave funds on US soil and boost our production and replenish our stockpiles. This was genius in his own regard. But this was not as stable as a Lend-Lease or anything of that nature that Trump would not be able to reverse. And so he did, right? If you think about it, a year ago, bit more than a year ago, Trump had influence on Congress. That's why there was no aid for 6 months under Biden administration. And then Biden sped up all type of aid and issuance and whatnot by the end of the year. But knowing that this will happen under the Trump administration, that's what Trump paused. And then ultimately the Patriot systems were not delivered, and now they will be purchased by Germany, but they will be only available in spring 2026 and yada, 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 right? So altogether, Europeans are hearing that Trump is not being on their side. Now, officially, he spoke with Putin. That's it. It's on you guys. You want to fight? Do it. If you don't want to fight, Ukraine will have to give up territories. Now, let's think about why these certain territories. Russia stole Crimea, right? They sent those green people or whatever to Crimea that took over their federal buildings, administrative buildings, caused this type of revolution, did a fake referendum, people voted, and so this has been stolen. This is now 10 plus years in. So Russia, of course, considers that already theirs. Historically, very wrong. Historically, Ukrainians are Rus, and this the Moscovites, right, so to speak, those are the Golden Horde. They have more to do with Mongolia than anything to do with the Rus. I mean, if you're interested, I posted videos. It's just 30 minutes long. You can learn history, right? You can learn where Russian language comes from. You can learn why Ukrainian language is over 1,000 years old and what was in Moscow while Kiev and Rus was actually built it up. Right? I digress. Now, so Europeans are hearing US is out of this, and Trump is advocating for Ukraine to give up territories. One territory that Putin is very interested in, aside from Crimea, that he already by now considers his, is Donbass. Why? I mean, historically speaking, go back to USSR times, it was very industrial part, which was it took a large part of Ukraine's GDP. At this point, this is a bombed out space. Of course, if Ukraine were to maintain it, it would need to boost it economically. It has to rebuild it. But when it comes to resources, this area is very rich if it will be treated and rebuilt correctly. But think about it this way, that Russians are never, ever interested in building something. They're interested in destroying. They're interested in occupying, suffocating, milking it, taking all the resources out, destroying, killing. These people are not builders. These people are destroyers. So they're interested in this particular region to take it away from Ukraine, so Ukraine would not be rebuilt, will not be as prosperous potentially, right, with foreign investment, given that this will come once the war is over. They're interested in that, in prohibiting that. For them to use Donbass region to enrich themselves, I mean, look at their land and what they already have and not use, right? Corruption is through the roof in Russia, and there are elites that are controlling, or KGB essentially, that is controlling the resources. But here, all they're interested in is to prohibit Ukraine from existing as a sovereign country, geographically and politically, and existing also as a nation ethnically. And here comes Putin's demand as to installing Russian language as the official one and installing the Moscow Orthodox Church as the main church. To which Trump agrees because he doesn't understand it, nor he has any willingness to understand anything. So he agrees, okay, whatever, God, great. I mean, Trump is chosen one. He wants to go to heaven, he said today. Anyway, but the Moscow Orthodox Church is the church that blesses the missiles that are hitting Ukrainian civilians, that is heavily infested by KGB. The popes work with the intelligence, Russian intelligence. They use it to, not just spread propaganda, but it's part of the big system that has worked itself so far to infest, cities such as New York. We have Moscow Orthodox churches in New York. Go there. You'll feel it where you are. So at this point, Trump agrees to that demand too. So now we have the lands. He calls it land swaps. You can't call it a land swap because this is just capitulation of Ukraine. We're going to take every single thing. We're going to take Donbass, that, by the way, Russians spent now 10 years trying to acquire, lost 1 million people, their own soldiers, trying to get it and couldn't. And with Trump's help, they want to get this land finally, right? The church, the installing the language, Zelensky would need to also call for new elections. Of course, a pro-Putin puppet would be installed, because that puppet would also work with the US now, which is sort of not just the partner in crime for Russia, but more like its security guarantee, right? Because that's what I just told you in Alaska. What Trump did was legitimizing that Putin did. He okayed it, right? Just by being there, by accommodating this stupid meeting, right? And so back to this Air Force One meeting. And Europeans are a little bit freaking out. They're saying, well, we have the coalition of the willing, which is very impotent, right? I mean, we're willing, but we're not doing anything. We're just sitting on our asses, hoping that somehow magically this will resolve itself, but it won't. And then they're also nervous, specifically countries like Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, Baltics altogether. They're nervous because they're next, right? Finland is nervous, sharing the longest border with Russia. So they're like, what are we going to do? We have to figure out something, because if Trump will now not just side with Putin, but will now sell weapons maybe to Russia, now that will change the whole trajectory. So they're coming up with the idea of security guarantees. Okay, if we were to give up land, we need to come up with security guarantees. In this case comes Italy. Italy is the creator of the 5th article, right? Or Article 5 in NATO. Article 5 has 3 steps to it. First, all the countries have to recognize that an ally has been invaded or assaulted, or their sovereignty has been impacted negatively in some type of way. They have to recognize it. Second, they have to decide that an action is is valid, right? So all of us, first we see there's a threat against our ally. Now we all agree that we need to produce some type of response. That's number two. And number three, they have to agree on the response. This is Article 5, and that's what the three steps they're needed to be met within Article 5. And so Witkoff, in that regard, says, what if we create, Meloni says, there's this Article 5, what if we use Article 5 for sort of as a guarantee for Ukraine? If Ukraine were to give up land, because Europe altogether decided we will not keep Ukraine in the fight if United States is out of it. Witkoff comes with the idea that the security guarantee in the Article 5, because it's very famous at this point, right? NATO is known for this Article 5. Let's use it as the main sales point to whom? To Ukrainian people, because the lands, it's not like it will be, like you see in the movies, you will see the leader of one country coming up to another one, and they have a long list, and one with the signature, he will be giving up lands and the border is redrawn. No, Ukraine is a democracy. And so any land or any land swaps or capitulation has to be okayed by the people. And this would come most likely in the way of a referendum. And then this sales point is needed. And so altogether, leaders decide to come to Washington, D.C. to speak to Trump. What I hear, the European leaders are euphoric about the idea of, yes, giving up land to Putin, but having security guarantees and using this sort of Article 5 as that security guarantee. They're euphoric. They think this is a great idea. Let's all sign for it, especially if United States will be part of it. So they all travel to Washington, D.C. Yesterday morning happens the breakfast. And the breakfast is essentially Zelensky with Kellogg, right? Kellogg, who is considered by Putin very pro-Ukraine, hence he wasn't even allowed to join the meetings in Alaska. And so Kellogg and Zelensky are meeting. The talks are not on whether Ukraine will be giving up lands. The idea is, what can we use to draft this referendum to sell it? And they use it physically, the words sell it. And I've heard it from multiple sources telling me from that meeting, how can we sell it to Ukrainian people that they will see this as something different? Don't forget, Budapest Memorandum. It says we will not be invading Ukraine. We will not be using any economical measures against Ukraine. And we will fight anybody who will be invading Ukraine or touching it. Signed by, of course, United States, UK, Russia. Later it was co-signed by a couple, was shown to France as well and whatnot. So altogether, all that is violated now, not by Russia, but also by United States. Why? Because United States, under Trump administration, pushed Ukraine to sign this minerals agreement, right? Which is essentially using economical measures against sovereign Ukraine that is currently at war, that is not having anything to rebuild itself. I mean, yeah, it has resources, but but there's a war. You don't digging up those resources. And still Trump administration pushed the victim that is on the ground bleeding to give up the resources, to give this, access. And Trump is pitching this to Putin. Do you want to use my access to Ukraine's resources? And Putin says, no, I want land, because I don't want to share the Ukraine's resources with you. I want to decide what I want to do with Ukraine's resources. Who is you, in other words? So the meeting happens, the breakfast, they decide how can we pivot this Article 5 and whatnot. As to Article 5, I want to feature, before I read your comments, what Phil Gordon said on that. Phil Gordon is National Security Advisor of the former Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. He, alongside Sullivan, Jake Sullivan, National Security Advisor for President Biden, Gordon spent a lot of time in Ukraine. He worked very closely with Zelensky. He worked very closely with Ukraine and Pentagon and the DoD under Biden, and who designed or co-designed all the structure as to how the weapons will be financed and how they will be delivered and what will be happening. So here are some tweets that I want to show you. This is from him. He says, honestly, can't see how this meeting, he's referring to yesterday's meeting, was a triumph for Ukraine or Europe, even if baseline was February 28 disaster. That's when Zelensky was harassed. Trump didn't agree to meaningful U.S. security guarantees. His position on land swaps is totally unacceptable to Ukraine. Putin hasn't agreed to terms for a future meeting, and U.S. sanctions on Russia are off the table. Perhaps it was triumph for Trump, who got all the Europeans to show up and praise him, despite his having broken with them, or him having broken with them, and accepted Russian positions in Alaska only a few days before. Then he talks about Article 5. The like part of NATO-like security guarantees doing a lot of work here. The most relevant characteristics for Article 5 are that it says an armed attack on one shall be considered an attack against all. It's codified in a Senate-approved treaty, is not subject to third-party veto, and has been interpreted to mean U.S. readiness to use force to uphold. He continues, based on Witkoff's track record of confusing and oversold statements and Trump's unwillingness to defend Ukraine, it seems doubtful that U.S. will commit to any of these things, and that whatever guarantees U.S. offers will not be very much like Article 5 at all. Worth noting that von der Leyen only spoke about Trump's willingness to contribute to Article 5 or 5-like security guarantees for Ukraine, which could mean only the Europeans making them. But that would not be very much like the actual Article 5 either. And why does it matter? Because the coalition could be willing, so willing, but not being able to. I just mentioned, we're now, 33 minutes in, about 20 minutes ago, that when you buy something from the United States, you have a clause of a usage of those lethal weapons against a third country. It has to be okayed by the United States. This considers, you can Google it, I can search it up for you, but this affects a variety of things bought by the United States. Now, if Ukraine, who gives up territory, hey, it's a lamp, gives up territory, right? The biggest advantage for Putin is, of course, the forces will leave the, will leave the border, right? The border that sort of protects the border, meaning what's occupied by Russia and what is still Ukrainian. The forces will have to depart this line, so opening up anything for Russia. And let's imagine somewhere in the middle of the night, Russia again invades Ukraine. And what will be the first step? You think Europeans will start bombing Russia when they didn't do it 3 years in? With what? With American weapons? You think Trump will be part of it? He'll send army? No. What Europeans are suggesting is, okay, then let's put our forces there as peacekeeping, operation. They will not be going into Russia, but they will be at this borderline and they will be protecting. And maybe, because we have so many NATO forces already in Eastern Europe and Eastern flank, so we can easily, with no additional charges, because money has been allocated to host those and maintain those forces. Money has been already allocated by everybody's single budget. So let's just dislocate them and put them there. To which Putin says, and this is where it comes to Trump calling Putin and exiting the meeting. Today, the Pili-Pali, the White House press conference with Caroline Leavitt and Bola, where she was asked, why is Trump saying that he had to leave the meeting with European leaders yesterday to call Putin? And Trump said, well, this is disrespectful because Putin doesn't want to talk to them. So I want to be respectful to Putin because he doesn't want to talk to them. He just wants to talk to me. They even posted a picture of him calling Putin here. So here's visuals, right? This was the meeting. Everybody sat here looking at the map that, by the way, had Dnipropetrovsk in Russian instead of Dnipro in Ukrainian. So we know who made those maps. This was the breakfast in the morning. Trump was, either selling or showing his hats with Trump 2028 on it. It's a gift shop. Everybody was here summoned for a class. Look at the Vance and Rubio having fun. Wonderful, right? So then Trump leaves and calls Putin. And here's the point why he had to leave. Because first of all, he has to report. I mean, he's playing a double agent at this point, right? He has to say what he managed to sell to Europeans, and also what Europeans are planning to do. And once he says they want to put forces there, Putin says, "Oh hell no." And Lavrov and the foreign ministry of Russia immediately issues a statement. That's why it came out yesterday. And think about it. This was like 1 a.m. in Russia. That any foreign forces on Ukrainian land would be just bananas. I actually have an exact quote that they issued. Let me see. I do have it. Just a tiny second. Yes. They say, we reaffirm our repeatedly stated position on our categorical rejection of any scenarios that envision the appearance in Ukraine of a military contingent with the contingent, right, with the participation of NATO countries. So essentially, don't put anybody on Ukraine, right? 40 minutes, Putin is talking to Trump, and Trump is known for parroting anything he just heard. So he goes back to Europeans and he tells, no, Putin doesn't want to do it. And he starts saying, well, but maybe US will be, a part of it with Article 5, so will be no forces, but maybe I will be also part of it. And so everybody runs with it and starts parroting that now, Trump will be part of this big hoopla and whatnot. Now, Trump this morning at 8 in the morning has a call-in interview on Fox News. And there he shares, and I have a little summary for you. In a phone interview today, August 19th on Fox News, he says essentially, Trump says Ukraine's NATO membership has always been unacceptable for Russia, long before Putin, both in Soviet times and today. He stressed there will be no US troops on the ground in Ukraine. And at this point, we already know there will be also no European troops. Putin is not going to, accept that, apparently. And since and this is my whole problem, that we're now negotiating with the international criminal murderer, right? We always ask, hey, do you like it? Do you like it? It's okay. Can I, as a victim, as you rape me here, can I turn? Maybe? No? Okay, well, anyway, he says, according to him, security guarantees should be provided by Europe. France, Germany, and the UK are considering sending their troops as part of the deal, which is bullshit. Putin already issued statements that this ain't gonna fly. Trump claims that Ukraine is going to receive significant territory. Note, it is Ukrainian territory that they cannot receive from Russia, right? I mean, they occupied 7%, right? 4 to 7%, and they spent 3 years, and actually since 2014 doing that. So get the hell out of here. Russia is a powerful military nation, Trump says, whether people like it or not. It's much bigger nation. You don't take on a nation that is 10 times your size. Now, the nation 10 times Ukraine's size was taking on Ukraine, right? Remember, somehow United States did not gift Hawaii to Japan, but decided to bomb the hell out of it. Trump argued that Ukraine used to serve as a buffer between Russia and the rest of Europe, and that everything worked out well until Biden got involved. Now, this is from Kremlin with love. with usage of ChatGPT or Google. You decide what source you use for translation, but this is just literally Russian. Putin invited Zelensky and Trump to Moscow. Now, if Zelensky would accept it, Zelensky's not going to return from Moscow or in pieces. Or maybe like Navalny, the huge threat. You're not going to go to Kremlin and try to kill you multiple times. That, first and foremost, does not recognize you as a leader. And this is the main point that I want to make here, that Ukraine, for Putin, is not a sovereign country. For him, Ukraine does not exist. Hence, Zelensky is not a leader he would be seated in front of. So, sitting with somebody at the table, even if that table is 8 meters, long per Putin's, habits, would legitimize this partner, right? I'm signing something, you're signing something, we are equals, right? Maybe even I win, you lose, or you lose, I win, or win, or lose. We're equals, we're partners, we're deciding on this. For him, this is a nightmare scenario. And Merz, Chancellor Merz of Germany, confirms it today. He says, quote, "I doubt that Putin has the courage to meet President Zelensky." But he's also not interested. For him, this will be a complete no-go. He just scored a big win in Alaska. He scored a big win with Trump again getting into presidency and reciting every single propaganda that Kremlin gives him. And so at this point and where we're at, Trump is very interested in Nobel Peace Prize. Yes, it's a duck, it's just, okay, shiny. And so everybody's using this. Putin is using it for his purposes, saying that, hey, you want a, peace agreement, I'll nominate you if you just resolve this with Ukraine, but you can't resolve it without me keeping the territories and, legitimizing everything I did, not being prosecuted. There will be no sanctions on me, which is, who even speaks of sanctions at this point? Where is our Congress? Who knows? So no sanctions, no tariffs. We're starting business. Exxon, right? Our U.S. company is now investing in Siberia project. We're doing business with Russia now, and just rebooting. And it's just, I think it's a short time until now U.S. will start selling weapons to Russia, saying and claiming that, hey, equal rights for everybody, right? Equality. So for Putin is great. For Zelensky it's a shit show. And here we come to my personal opinion and analysis. Before we get into that, let me read your comments real quick. Okay, let's just go through real quick. Hey, Peter, yeah, thank you. Спасибо, что сказал прав. Thank you, Rochelle, yes, thank you. Rochelle says, thank you for saying the truth. Linda, thank you, Linda. I appreciate your Blue Sky contribution. Oh, thank you, Linda, and welcome. I haven't been live for a week. He stole Crimea, yes. Violated Kellogg, yes. That's why Ukraine doesn't have nuclear weapons. Exactly. They took it away. I don't think they're concerned about optics and doing things by the books. Absolutely not. Let's get in. James says, all of our leaders have failed us, unfortunately, in one way or another. They want the port. Yeah, with Crimea. Absolutely. I think, Rochelle, that's what you're pravda is truth. As people, as culture. What about links between Epstein, Putin, and human trafficking? I think it's very much linked. This is, again, my humble opinion. I wasn't there, haven't seen it, but I think it's very much linked, at least that's how it looks like. Peter, yes. Thank you for reposting, Cure. Thank you. I apologize, speak Russian. Rochelle, yeah, I speak Russian too. I'm from Kharkiv, so born there. So we speak Russian, but also learned Ukrainian. And Feel embarrassed, with speaking Russian lately. It's almost guaranteed that Russia will violate the agreement. Absolutely. Not almost. I would say certainly. Witkoff is an idiot. Golf, but yeah. Kinetic Katana. Hello. Totally. He just a real estate dude. Yes. Let me get back. And Bonnie. Hey, Bonnie. Bonnie says Putin's compromise on Trump must be huge. Yes, and the worst yesterday was having to listen to Brian Glenn and Peter Ducey ask their question. Yeah, about the suit, and that Zelensky came in dressed, and it was a whole thing. I mean, I don't like talking about stupid stuff, so let's just stick to it's enough of I'm with you. Okay, well, reality show is never has been my genre. Um, Glasnost, yeah, Brett, we need glass. Yeah, well, close to it. So my personal thing, what I have an issue with, or had an issue with yesterday. I'm Ukrainian born US citizen, right? So this is a bit of a connection here. Not a bit, big connection. So my disconnect was where the night before the meeting with Europeans, and I'll describe it for you. Zelensky posts this tweet where Ukraine will never surrender. Ukraine will never, give an inch to the invader. We will fight till the end, and we'll da da da. He puts a very powerful statement as to we're ready for the talks, but no, we're not getting anywhere, near to being weak. And we're counting for Europe to stand with us shoulder to shoulder and to defend our sovereignty. To which we think, okay, great, right? I mean, tomorrow is going to be great. And I'm posting everywhere. Don't expect anything because Ukraine is not going to band. Europe is not going to bend over. Maybe Trump will try to bribe them with tariffs, but no land swaps, whatever they call it, or capitulation is to be expected. At that particular moment, I start receiving messages because Europe is waking up. It's about 1 a.m. the night before the meeting, right? Yesterday's meeting. So the night before last. And I'm receiving messages from different delegations, saying that, hey, just wanted to give a heads up. Europe is okay, taking the short, side of the stick, so to speak. There will be supporting the land giveaway, so to speak, and they will be just focusing on security guarantees. And so Europe is okay for Ukraine to give up land, and Zelensky agreed. All is fine. I mean, this will not be the question. The question will be security guarantees and how can we phrase them? And essentially, all of them are bogus. And I explained it to you now from different angles that there's no way to enforce this Article 5 like thing without the United States. The United States is not going to be part of it. So, blah. And I'm writing every single person. How dare you? We Ukrainians will be fighting. What do you mean? Well, next day I had to crawl back and say, I apologize, And then I was shown documents and everything that they discussed yesterday, right? Not everything, but certain things from particular delegations. And essentially, the guarantees will be, I've seen two versions now, both discussed, that in case Ukraine were to be invaded, the European partners will gather to discuss what would be appropriate response. That essentially what the security guarantees are now. And here comes the main point. How will Zelensky sell it to Ukrainian people? I still have Ukrainian citizenship. I will not vote for this. And Ukrainians who lost so many loved ones, whether it is civilians, whether it's their sons and daughters and husbands and wives who went to physically fight, who fought for Ukraine, they will not be voting for this. And this is democracy in action. Yes, if Ukraine, one way or another, were to pass this referendum, give up land, the next step would be US will be demanding Ukraine, and Europe also will support this idea, and this is written already, for Zelensky to call for elections. Of course, peace is here, the elections are long overdue, let's do it. Zelensky said that he will run for president again. Historically speaking, once Zelensky signs this thing, giving up anything to Russia, he is a target. Nobody's interested to keep him alive. And he will target from many groups, right? But okay, he's expected to run. The former general Zaluzhny, who has been expelled, so to speak, as ambassador to England or UK, is expected to run as opposition. People from Zelensky's team would be running too against him. Poroshenko, former president, who is okay-ish with Trump, who got the javelins from him, remember? That's or pre-negotiated before Zelensky came in. He will be running. So then Ukraine will go into this election mode, heavily induced by Russian propaganda. So there are other notions that come to NATO that I will not disclose now. I will have to see some signs. I told you, I believe in the goodness. But I've seen certain things that will be affecting NATO moving forward. When time is right, I'll share it. What I can tell you is that US is officially will be focusing on China and not Europe. But also US is not expected to defend Taiwan. And if you are tracking anything China related, they have been issuing statements in a 51, for some reason, minute interval that Taiwan belongs to China since World War II. It's part of us. For them, it's the best time right now. Europe's not going to defend them. US not going to defend them. Probably not ready. Also, from what I've heard, that when Trump spoke to Putin, he asked Putin to guarantee or work with China that China will not be invading Taiwan as long as Trump is president. But since Putin then immediately called Xi, and Xi started issuing statements that Taiwan is Chinese, you trusted your buddy, but your buddy is unfortunately in bed with China as much as you wish he wouldn't. So Taiwan will be the next problem, and Indo-Pacific for United States. But also United States will not be, or Trump regime will not be really facing any issues doing what they're now successfully doing within the United States, right? Militarizing the state and, pretty much converting democracy in some type of regime. No really fascist regime, because there's no really strategy or whatnot. It's just trying to control all people and staying in power as long as possible type of thing. It looks like it. Will it become some type of will he get full to the point where he's a full-blown king and will appoint people, or will we play with the fake elections or manipulated elections or whatever, or dismissing elections or declaring national emergency? We'll see. What will result into it. What I can personally say is that who I'm disappointed with, honestly, is European leaders. And this was the last thing on my bingo card, that European leaders will be supporting the giving up land for Ukraine. Giving historically speaking, Russia violating every single agreement. What I'm disappointed with is also that neither Poland nor Baltic states were at the table yesterday. The countries at the table, as much as I, respect the leaders, but those were the richest countries. And the countries that Putin would not go into to begin with. He's not going to invade, United Kingdom. He's not going to invade Germany or France or Italy even. He's not going to do it. Or Finland at this point. He would go into Poland and Lithuania and Latvia and whatnot. These countries weren't allowed to join. Poland was rightfully so very pissed for not being there, and the decision on who will be joining was decided within European Union. So this was not by Trump, the decision by Trump. This was decision by Europe itself. And Poland didn't make a cut. They said those who are, first of all, have closed deals with Trump and are favored by him, those will go. Hence, von der Leyen, which there's no agreements, bullshit. The UK agreement, which is also bullshit, and whatnot, right? So, and Meloni, and they are very much with have an understanding with Trump, and that's how that selection was made, in my understanding. And this is where I'm at, you know. Now, lastly, I'll take 1 minute of your time. Yesterday was a sort of, and I posted it was a deja vu of the moment where I left UN, and I will not tell the stories. Maybe sometime we meet off the record, and I can share details. But at the UN, I joined it. I'm back. Did I overstay my welcome? And thank you, Peter, for telling me that 51, right? I told you it's 51 minutes. China timing messages is reference to year 1951, after Chiang Kai-shek and Kuomintang supporters withdrew from Taiwan. It's reference to defeat Mao Zedong's. But okay, thank you. See, thank you for sharing, and I'll read on that more. Welcome back. Thank you, Claude. Thank you. And so, last thing I wanted to share is that, I joined UN trying to change the world. This was my intention. And everybody was laughing in my face. And now I know why. And I left it thinking that I can make more change by working with people. Because at the UN, the main notion was the higher you climb, they would always compare it to a tree. The higher you climb, the less shaking, room to shake you have, because you're going to fall. So you do less, and you're more careful, and you say less, and you are less provocative and whatnot. And my whole intention was, listen, I think that I can make the change when I work from within with people. And as much as I was discouraged yesterday, my thing is, I want to focus on people, and I want to focus on democracy in action, right? Because ultimately, if you analyze everything I said here for an hour, the main decision will be coming by Ukrainians. And that's why every single leader keeps repeating, Ukrainians will decide. Ukrainians will decide. Yes, Ukrainians will decide. And whether Ukrainians will decide with any fight and even death is better than defeat and leaving under Russian regime and the Russian boot. Because don't forget, the lands that they will be giving up, it's not just lands, it's people. So voting in favor of such referendum is deciding for somebody's family to be split, for somebody's daughter to be raped, for somebody's husband to be raped, for somebody's husband and son and brother to go and fight on Russia's behalf, because believe it, they will use them to fight further. I don't believe Ukrainians will do it. I hope I'm right. If I'm wrong, I'll be first to apologize or cry about it. I don't know. I don't believe Ukrainians will do it. With one decision to say, look, because there's a line. There's families who live in cities that are nearby, and one would be Russian, one will not. You know what Russians are doing to people under occupation. They want to They want for Ukrainians to go extinct. They want to diminish every thought of Ukrainian language and culture that is very rich compared to Russian. Russians stole a bunch of it. Russian language is what Bulgarian mixed with Ukrainian. So, and exactly, Claude, the strongest weapon is education. And I encourage you to watch this video. I'll attach it to in the comments. It's on YouTube. I'm not affiliated with these guys, but they did fabulous job in English. Sharing in just within 30 minutes the history of Ukraine and the Rus and what's at stake here, and why those lands are important, historically speaking. But really, my intention is, democracy. We say that's very famous, like it's a trendy slogan, fight for democracy, like in the United States, because it's very connected to Democrats versus Republicans. But democracy itself, worldwide, I think the power is among people. And when people unite and they stand up and they decide to do something, they do really unthinkable. Think about the parts of the world where women are not allowed to do anything. Think how women are standing up, and a bunch of them lose their loved ones and lose their own lives. But then for the generations to come to be able to have a bit more freedom or access to education, it's the power is by the people. And I want to encourage you, don't lose your power. Don't shut up. Don't be afraid to voice your opinion. Don't be afraid to be curious, because that's where regimes win, when they kill your curiosity, where you don't care to learn anything, when you don't care to question, when you don't dare to question. That's when we become dodo birds, and that's when we're controlled so easily. So I do believe, with everything that I said, that Ukrainians will not be allowing this to happen. Is there manipulation? Even is. Ukrainians are known to get out and fight, as recent as a few weeks ago when Zelensky tried to control the anti-corruption entities. So I think the people will decide against it. This is my opinion, and I told you I'll finish with my opinion. And in the light of democracy, we'll continue. Tomorrow we'll be back on normal schedule. Tonight I'm going to send you the newsletter. I'm waiting on some information from the Israel part to put it into there's 200,000 people protesting against Netanyahu, and I want to hear one little detail to add to your newsletter. So we'll be tonight and tomorrow at noon, and we'll start. I will go live daily, Monday through Friday, as we used to before I got sick. So thank you for being here. Thank you for keeping me company here. And if you watch later, I'm grateful. And if you watch on YouTube, if you can, click like and subscribe, whatever, that would be very much appreciated, because then it would be shared through the algorithms to with people who are interested in this, right? And I also decided that daily with our live streams, I'll pick a couple of topics that are main and then direct you to the newsletter, so I will not overwhelm you with all kinds of news every day, so we can focus on some things. Okay? All right. Keep your head on a swivel. Thank you for being here. I'll make sure to read all the comments here once I'm done, and I got to run, and see you tomorrow. Again, stay safe, stay sane, and stay curious. Okay? That's your power. Thank you for being here.